الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله عز وجل وسنة رسوله والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all our dear respected listeners and viewers from around the world. Alhamdulillah, once again, on this beautiful day of Ramadan, in this beautiful state of fasting, we have been blessed to enter into the beautiful seerah of our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the most beautiful of all creation, the most beautiful of all lives, the masterpiece of all creation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as is our practice, we have a short recap before we begin. And previously on the seerah, we discussed in yesterday's episode those moments when going on from the 4th to the 50th year of Nubuwah in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam faced such difficulties from the Quraysh, such harshness, such persecution, such torture. But then on top of this, the Quraysh had actually resorted to, after Utbah's initial negotiation that we discussed in the day before, Abu Jahl had gone, full guns blazing, and he'd become someone who is even more worse, even more, red face and blood boiling, even more of a criminal, even more evil than he already was. And the question was how much more evil could you get? And we discussed how they designated an area where all of the weak slaves, or those who didn't have people to ally or protect them, were taken and tied up and beaten and tortured to the max. We discussed how Sayyidina Bilal who was beaten and beaten, whipped, stones placed on his blessed body, the dung of animals placed on his blessed body, burning metal placed until his body was covered with scars, blood, skin patches that had bubbled up because of how badly they had been burned. And on top of this, they then dragged him, tied him to a rope and dragged him through the streets, so to add additional scorching pain to all of his blessed body, until Sayyidina Abu Bakr who came and freed Sayyidina Bilal who, and Sayyidina Bilal came into the hands of the Prophet and said, I don't want to be free, I want to serve you, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is what he ultimately wanted to do. And you have the likes of Sayyidina Zanir who was this slave girl who was beaten by Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab and many of the other Quraysh, and she lost her eyesight. And when they taunted her saying it was Lat and Uzza, she reminded them, saying, how can those idols that can't see themselves take my eyesight away? Allah takes and Allah gives, and Allah returned her eyesight the following morning. And there was many other slaves like this, and likewise the family of Sayyidina Ammar ibn Yasir, his elderly father who had to breathe his last, having seen that moment when his beloved wife was stretched on the ground, and Abu Jahl would take a spear and make her shaheed, the first shaheed of Islam, only because she would rather die than say a word against the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this innocent child, this kid, this young teenager, Sayyidina Ammar ibn Yasir has to witness the passing of his mother in such a horrific way, in such a painful way, as she becomes the first shaheeda of Islam. And seeing that head to toe, as the Prophet said, he was instilled by Iman, which he inherited from his parents. The one who passed away with the love, declaring the love of Allah and His Rasul, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was the first shaheeda of Islam. And his father who passed away with his final words, saying, give my salam to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As his parents passed away, Sayyidina Ammar ibn Yasir continued to take on the pain that was put upon him, and many other slaves likewise, until Sayyidina Abu Bakr came and one by one freed all of them up as much as he could. And he was taunted by Quraysh, and he was beaten and hit for it. And the likes of Abu Jahl would go and inflict pain upon Sayyidina Abu Bakr and even say that he is spoiling the slaves, and he's calling him names for what he is doing. But Sayyidina Abu Bakr didn't care what they said, and he would use all his wealth to go and help his Muslim brothers and sisters. And then he would buy them and even free them, not even use them, because he knew that Islam didn't believe in slavery. Islam was here to empower slaves. And he continued doing this, and we also discussed how even those who were rich and influential, like the brothers of Abu Jahl, Ayyash and Salama, who were tied up in dungeons, the sons of Suhail ibn Amr, Abdullah and Abu Jandal, they were tied up in dungeons, and their life had become so hard. And even many others, like Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan, and the likes of Abu Hudayfa, who was the son of Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, and his wife, who was the daughter of Suhail ibn Amr, Hind. All of these people and their slaves had become so dejected and been tortured so much that their life had become so in danger that they couldn't worship Allah, they couldn't do anything. They were just in hiding, avoiding these people. And then it became impossible to be Muslim. And it was at this moment when the pain had ensued so much that the Prophet ﷺ had to instruct them to make hijrah, to leave Makkah. And even this was such a difficult sight and a difficult task for them that they weren't allowed to leave. And one first initial batch had to stealthily leave, risking everything, leaving everything behind in 1 second. They became penniless, they became homeless, they've left everything and become refugees as they left as civilians in the night of Makkah. And when they successfully had left, another larger group of almost 100 Sahaba had to be taken by brave heroes who slowly, stealthily took them night and day to an assembly point, and eventually they had all to say farewell to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and leave Makkah, within which was the likes of Abu Hudayfa, the son of Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, who in all his life has enjoyed such happiness. For the sake of Islam, he leaves everything. Sayyidina Musab ibn Umayr and Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan and Sayyidina Ruqayyah, the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the son-in-law of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, many great Sahaba had to leave everything behind, and from in one instant to become refugees without anything to their name, without even leaving their home and their homeland and their birthplace, leaving the Kaaba, leaving Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all so that they could go and be Muslim. And they marched on into an unknown journey to an unknown land, to an unknown ruler, simply trusting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is this man who he sallallahu alaihi wasallam never met, but one of the miracles that he said, Najashi, this emperor, this ruler will be fair to you. And they go on to this open journey, and we come back into the streets of Makkah, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam bears the immense pain of saying farewell to over 100 of his students, over 100 of his beloveds, over his daughter, his son-in-law, and those closest to him. And at the same time, seeing the persecution that continues day in, day out in Makkah, and how much they are torturing his people. And he would have the likes of Abu Bakr who would stay by his side. And when everyone, all of the other Sahaba would make him happy, and when they left, he had the comforting eyes of Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha, who whenever he looked into them, he could find solace in his heart, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, radiallahu anha. Those eyes that just shed with love for the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam and happiness, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who didn't have to say a word, just look at him and say, don't worry, I'm here, everything's going to be okay. That beloved wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our mother radiallahu anha, and when she also left, it would be the eyes of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that would then the heart that would finally get a rest from the smile that he put on in front of everyone, and he would now cry in front of his Lord and show the pain that he was hiding beneath his heart, because now he didn't have to say strong and give that positivity and that smile for everyone. He could just show the true pain that was within his heart and empty it out to his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala in those painful nights of tahajjud. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would make dua for his ummah, make dua for all those that were being tortured by name. But at this moment is where we left off yesterday, and we will continue today. And as is the practice, we urge everyone to recite salawat upon Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. So as we see, as the night skies, clouds form through, and we enter back into this beautiful night of Makkah, and we see that nights like these, and many nights even after this, our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in tahajjud making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and throughout the day in his salah he's making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he's praying and crying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua for those that have left Abyssinia towards Najashi, that they get a good journey, that their journey is easy, that they find a good home to stay in, that they find a good the emperor that will treat them nicely and treat them with love and respect, and they find freedom from all the clutches of the evil that they have been oppressed with. And the slaves and those who have been ennobled by Sayyidina Abu Bakr who through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's assistance, that they have they find a nice easy life. He's making so much dua for them. He's making dua for his ummah. He's making dua for those who are still chained in dungeons, those who are still being tortured in Makkah. And he's also making dua, look, the beautiful heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's making dua, oh Allah, Islam is weak, your ummah is weak, your followers are weak, my ummah, my mission is weak. We need people to strengthen us, and those who are the strongest from amongst us are those who are against us. Allah, strengthen Islam, give izzat to Islam, and give strength to Islam by those who are strong amongst us. And from that, look whose name he takes. It's Allah, strengthen Islam by either Umarain, either the two Umars, either Amr ibn Hisham, aka Abu Jahl, Abu Lakab ibn Hisham, or Umar ibn Khattab. After everything that Abu Jahl did, after how evil he's been, no matter how he's done, the heart of the Prophet ﷺ makes dua even for him. How many of us have then made dua for those who we see as the staunchest enemies of Islam, saying, Allah, guide them to Islam? And we've seen it happen in our time, where those who are supporters of those who are absolutely against Islam became Muslim. But we have to have hearts like the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That our mission isn't to hate on people. Our mission is to love people. Our mission is to give them the ultimate love of Hidayah. the ultimate love that brings them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that not only saves them in the world but saves them in the akhirah. That is the dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for Abu Jahl, saying, "Oh Allah, he is someone who is influential, give strength to Islam by him." In other words, he has some talents and some power in worldly sense. If he was to become Muslim, he could use it for the sake of Allah. And either him or Umar ibn Khattab, the one who's beaten Zanira until she's the one who's become blind. He is the one who, like we said, wasn't harsh-hearted and wasn't an evil person, but he was the one who's fed by all the propaganda that this man is the one who is breaking the traditions of our forefathers. And this was a practice that was so deeply rooted within them that our forefathers and our ancestors, whether right or wrong, we follow them. Maja Abana, this is what our fathers brought, and we found them upon it, so we follow it no matter what. Ancestral lineage was, inculcated within them, beyond limits, beyond what it should be. And they made it into an evil, ignorant practice. This is a man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who they would say that he separates father and son, because a son, even if the father is wrong, has to follow. Now, when the sons are seeing that their fathers are wrong, if they accept Islam, the title or the insult is given, or the accusation is given that he separates father from son, he separates husband from wife, he empowers slaves. He makes slaves disobey their masters when in reality the slaves are just asking for their rights and are not standing for the oppression anymore, and are saying that we don't belong to human beings, we belong to Allah. To Allah we belong, and to Allah we return. They understood the true meaning of this. So when all of this propaganda is given, saying, look, Makkah is being put into peril, when all of these evil leaders are, in order to cover up their monopoly, in order to protect their power and their riches and what they enjoy, they would paint the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims as the villains, na'udhu billah, of Makkah, when those Quraysh leaders were the true villains, just to protect their evil plans. And when the people, fear was instilled into these people, naturally they reacted. And one of them was Umar ibn Khattab. So this person who outwardly had seen, so much, because of his fear, had shown so much aversion to Islam, that he would come and enter into the home of his brother-in-law and his sister and his own brother. His brother Zayd ibn Khattab, his brother, his sister Fatima ibn Khattab radiallahu anha, and his brother-in-law Sa'id ibn Zayd. These three, he would be talking to them, and he would be, saying such concerns against the Muslims and against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But at the same time, he would mention about how he feels wrong about how the Muslims are being treated, and how he marvels that there must be something about these people that they aren't doing anything wrong or dishonorable, but we are stooping so low. And when he would leave the home, his brother, his sister, and his brother-in-law look, saying, we are Muslims. We have accepted Islam. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. And oh Umar, we hope that you will also become Muslim. How close you come to realizing that this is the truth, but how deep you have been amassed by the evil and the propaganda and the fears that are being instilled within you by those Quraysh leaders that you are surrounded by. And yet the Prophet ﷺ is making dua for these two, Abu Jahl and Umar ibn Khattab, saying, may Allah guide them. And through this, day and night he cries to his Lord, and the next day he stands back up again, and no matter what they would put him through, he will go out into the streets and give da'wah to the people. But now what happens is, as the mornings go by, the Qurayshi leaders it comes to their attention that all of these people, those people who have done hijrah and they have left, over 100 people have left, their names come to them, and they know now for a fact that these people have done hijrah, they have left Makkah, they have come out of their clutches, meaning we have lost these people, they've escaped from us. All of these civilians, all of these people that we were supposed to torture, somehow they've escaped, they've been saved. How? And they know that this has to be the gallant and the fearless, strong heroes of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who led this operation to save these people from the clutches of these evil criminals. So now their anger is riled up even more, because they've just lost over 100 of their civilians, over 100 of those who they were torturing innocently. Those who were there oppressing, they've lost 100 of them. And now they know that every other person who is being tortured, they're going to lose all of them, because this man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, under their noses is coming and saving these innocent people. And they can't win against his hero, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now they get so angry that they increase their abuse and they increase their anger upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they see how much their plans are being foiled. But no matter how much they harm the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no matter how much they hit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was always one special person that would come and stand by his side. As well as Sayyidina Abu Bakr, as well as the Sahaba, there was one person that no matter what happened, would always be by the side. And when this person came to the consolation of the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it hurt the Quraysh so much because of two main reasons. Number one, because no matter how much pain we give him, no matter how much we try to hurt his heart, this person mends his heart. This person builds his heart. This person, no matter how much we try to bring darkness in his heart and pain in his heart, this person brings joy and happiness and light to the heart of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was one of the main reasons why they hated this person so much and why it was so angry, harsh for them to see it. But on top of this, at the forefront, you have the likes of Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, one of the most harshest enemies of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the number one goon and henchman of Quraysh. You have Abu Sufyan ibn Harb, who's day at the forefront of the main 7 Qurayshi leaders, who's against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you have Abu Jahl ibn Hisham, the arch enemy, standing at the forefront, feeling really, really angry because that beautiful person, that beloved person that would always come to the side of her beloved husband was Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha, the one who was sought after by Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan and Uqba ibn Mu'ayt. They were desperate to marry her, but she rejected all of them from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that woman now stands tall by his side. That same woman who, no matter what happened, would never ever leave the side of her husband, would endure every difficulty for just to be by the side of him, to be close to him, and to endure everything he endures. See, whatever you go through, I go through. Your pain is my pain. Your smile is my smile. That is Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha. No matter what happens to me, you are my priority in life. That's how much she loved the Prophet ﷺ more than life itself. This is the same woman that we said just yesterday who would miss the Prophet ﷺ so much that even after giving birth to so many children, being 40s and 50s, she would miss the Prophet ﷺ when he was in Ghar Hira. She would climb up that whole mountain just to see him. She would worry, has he eaten? Does he eat anything? What if she would be so frantic and so worried about it that when he would leave, she would come and pack whatever she could and prepare everything. Say, no, you need this, you need this. Almost like a mother to him. Say, I love you with this motherly love, this wifey kind of love. Saying, look, I'm going to pack all this stuff for you, go and take it. But even then, even though she'd packed so much for him, she'd worry, saying, what if he's running short of something? What if he doesn't have enough food? What if he hasn't eaten? She would prepare everything for him. She would find somewhere to look after the kids, and then she would go and walk up that mountain to make sure he has enough food, he has enough, enough provisions, and he isn't, short of anything. He's okay. And sometimes just to see him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how much she would worry and love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how much she wanted him to just be at ease. She couldn't take, the smallest thing harming the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how much she had love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is that same woman who we have riwayat of how when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came running to her after Ghar Hira, whenever Jibreel Islam would come and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be overwhelmed, he would come to her and sometimes he would be speechless. He would be shivering, but he wouldn't be able to take his word out. But she would come and she would hold him in his arms and she would just look with those beautiful, loving eyes. And just her eyes would give so much solace. Imagine how blessed those eyes are. That heart that channels that love through her eyes. That just by the Prophet looking into her eyes, speaking in her arms would give him solace. And how strong she would have been. The overwhelming power of wahi could be calmed just by her gentle and loving embrace. That's how much she loved the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how beloved she was to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And like we said, even before Nubuwwah, she wasn't just his wife. She was his whole world. She was his whole family. Everything he lost. All of those 19 years where he was without his mother, without Halima Sa'diyah, without his family members, without his sisters, without his parents, without everything. She became all of that and more for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His whole world, his whole family was Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha. All of the joys of his heart, all of his children came from Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha. She was that unwavering support that Allah gave to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No matter what Quraysh did, she would always be by his side. If they would put the filthiest carcasses on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she would be the one to wipe it with her own hands because she couldn't bear. She'd rather be on my hands than on the skin of my beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how much she loved the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, more than herself, more than her children, more than her family, more than life itself. And this was a woman that was beloved to everyone. Because she would go and empower every woman, every girl. Every girl deserves to be a princess. Every girl deserves to have a dream wedding, get married, have a beautiful life. Every poor person, every orphan deserves to have a happy life. This is that woman that the Prophet that became a female embodiment of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whatever was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she would take from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She would embody that within her character. That is why Allah chose her to become the first Muslim, the first mu'minah. This is how she would constantly love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she was such that we are living in a time of Makkah at this moment where everyone has more than one wife. Everyone, like we said, they would marry one young wife who would, women were buried, women weren't respected, they were disregarded. So they would only certain women who were very influential and rich and very beautiful were kept alive. So women were, those young women who had not yet been married were very few in number. They were decreasing. They were in high demand. So people would start marrying, and go to the father and say, look, I'm marrying your daughter. Even if she's 6 years old, 5 years old, 4 years old, the more influential and the more demand there was for that girl, she would be fixed up even before sometimes she'd be 3-4 years old. or even before 5, 6 years old. Normally by the time of 8, 9, all of those girls were fixed up because there was such a rarity. And the moment they would come to age, even 12, 13, the moment they would get baligh, that's it. They would be married off, and this is how people would fight over. Then they would have, because those girls were married so young, we discussed that as they would get older, their older husbands would pass away, and then they would become a widow. And then when at that moment they would reach past 16, 17, 20, but an ideal age to become a mother. So now from being the pampered princess of their first husband, they would go and get remarried with a second husband, with whom they would have bear children and have much more, childbearing and much more labor with this husband. And as they would grow up and in their youth, they would give children and bear children. Eventually, when that husband would pass away, they would then be remarried a third time and going to a third category of women who would be elder and who would have these motherly qualities, who would know how to look after the children, who would know how to look after the younger wives. This was the situation in Makkah at the time. So they would have a young wife who would be like their spoiled, the love of the one that they love and they pamper and they enjoy. They would have a few wives like this, not one, a few wives like this. This was the wife that they enjoy their life with, their enjoyment and happiness. After that, they would have the wives that would be within their 20s. They would be mainly for childbearing. And then after that, there would be the wives 30 onwards, 40 onwards, who would be looking after the household, being the caretakers, being the mother figures of the household. So they had multiple wives in the 11s and 12s and 20s. That's how many wives the people would have. But in this time, the Prophet ﷺ has only one wife that is older than him and is twice widowed. And she's his whole world and she's his only wife. That's how much he loves Sayyidah Khadija radhiyallahu anha. And he was one of the only single marriages in the whole of Makkah. Unheard of. That one man, one woman, and they loved each other to bits. That's how beloved they were to each other. And that's how Sayyidah Khadija radhiyallahu anha gave so much love and solace to the Prophet ﷺ. And we have riwayat of how the Prophet ﷺ would be in the lap of Sayyidah Khadija, would take the Prophet ﷺ and place his blessed head in her lap and calm him. When he would be worried, she would take his head and put it in her lap and just hold him and just lovingly, while the Prophet ﷺ would be resting on her lap, he would find solace in her lap. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And like we said, the essence of a marriage is that whilst we have to be a husband and wife, we also have to have a fatherly and a motherly quality. And Sayyidah Khadija would give that motherly love to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Look after him like every wife's first child is always a husband, and every husband's first daughter is also a wife. You have to have these qualities also. And Khadija embodied that in the way she loved the Prophet ﷺ. And likewise, the Prophet ﷺ in the way he loved her. But for them, their hearts were always one. Their hearts were always connected. No matter where they were, whatever they went through together. And may Allah grant all of us marriages like that, inshallah. That is how we should take, role models from the Prophet ﷺ and his marriages, ﷺ, and not what we see nowadays. This is the ultimate purest love story that you're going to find in the Prophet ﷺ and Khadija anha, and how important and how integral she was to the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and how empowered she was. So no matter what the Quraysh threw at the Prophet ﷺ, she was always there to be at the side of the Prophet ﷺ. And as this happened, as days go on, eventually we go back and our camera zooms out of Makkah and we go back into the lands of Najashi, where the Muslims, the first batch and then also following after them, the second batch, have reached the court of Najashi, and have reached the land of Najashi, and they have been escorted to the court of Najashi, seeking permission to enter into this land and giving their case. And now they are standing in front of Najashi, this ruler, this emperor. They've done the journey of unknown. They've entered into this land of this unknown land. Now they stand in front of this unknown ruler, but the only thing they know about him is that the Prophet ﷺ told us that he would be just to us. But now, remember what they've come from. They've come from a life where rulers were only unjust. Rulers, other than the likes of Abu Talib, majority of the rulers were just harming and just abusing them. And they stand in front of this ruler who is Najashi. And Najashi is actually not his name. Najashi is a title. In that region of the world, the emperors and the rulers were known as Najashi or Negus. So Negus was Najashi was their title. You have, in various parts of the world, you have leaders that were given different names. You have the Caesars, you have the Khosrows, you have, for example, the Pharaohs. Fir'aun, that we know in the Quran, is actually his title. Historically, they say he was Ramesses II. That was his name. But he was known as Pharaoh or Fir'aun. That is a title in that locality of Egypt. They would call their kings and leaders as Fir'aun or Pharaoh. In this location, they are known as Najashi. His actual name, based on the riwayat, was Ashama. So this ruler Ashama, who goes by the title of Najashi. So this Najashi, this emperor, has in his court these people who have fled their town. He doesn't know them. He is unknown to them, and they are unknown to him. But now all they know is we have yaqeen that our Rasul Sallallahu wouldn't lie to us. If he said it, it's true. And no matter what we've known of rulers, he Sallallahu told us that this ruler would be good to us. So they tell that tale, and when Najashi hears their tale, immediately his heart softens to them. And just as the Prophet ﷺ said, he said, I won't wrong you. I will allow justice to be given to you. You are people who have been oppressed. And he arranges that food is given to them, shelter is given to them, and accommodation is given to them so they could live in his land peacefully. He said, I don't care where you've come from, I don't care who you are, doesn't matter. You are people who are oppressed, and I will look after you. And just as the Prophet ﷺ said, across oceans and continents, that man became exactly as the Rasul ﷺ said about him. That is one of the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ. And through this, these beautiful people could finally rejoice. They could finally, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, the son of the Prophet ﷺ, saying that Jafar ibn Abi Talib, the cousin and of the Prophet ﷺ, the brother of Ali, the son of Abu Talib, and many Sahaba, Abu Dhayfa ibn Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, his wife Hind, the daughter of Suhail ibn Amr, and many others, they found solace in this beautiful land where finally they could breathe. They could live life happily without the fear of being killed, without the fear of being oppressed. And they could go and pray Salah without worrying that they would be killed just because they took the name of Allah. And this became a beautiful, safe haven for these early beautiful Muslims that were so beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And naturally, as Jibreel salam and this information was brought to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he became so happy. And finally his du'as were coming into fruition. They were answered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His tears of dua for them. They were enjoying this only through the du'as of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for them. Because that's how much he loved every single one of his ummah. But now, as day of finding solace, he continues to make dua for the likes of those who are still being oppressed. Because he was that father figure for all of the ummah. As we said, I am for you in the station of a parent, in the station of a father. He kept making dua for them, saying, Ya Allah, my ummah, I want them not only in this world, but only also all those in the akhirah. I just want them to be in solace and happiness. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And he continued to make dua for them. And as days went by, it came to the moment where the Quraysh had sent their spies out, and news came to them that now through rumors they found the location of where all of these civilians had been. They tracked down the civilians that had been rescued by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his supporters and his team, and how that they've gone to Najashi. So at this moment now, we have the co-leaders of Quraysh, and when they find out that this has happened, they go and they call Amr ibn al-As. Amr ibn al-As, he's actually the son of As ibn Wa'il. We have the main 7 leaders of Quraysh. We have Abu Talib, we have Abu Jahl, we have Walid ibn Mughira, As ibn Wa'il, Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, Suhail ibn Amr, Abu Sufyan. From this, we have As ibn Wa'il, the 4th one that we discussed. As ibn Wa'il, who was the wretched person who began celebrating when the Prophet's son was born or was passed away. Abdullah, when he passed away, he was celebrating, and he started off the trend of that word, Abtar Muhammad and Abtar, na'udhu billah. So that wretched person, his son Amr ibn al-As, he is called because he had gone and traveled to Najashi, and he had friendship and links with Najashi. And now, like we said, the situation of the youth was such that we discussed yesterday that as the more of the youth were becoming sympathizing to the Muslims, the leaders had made sure that they kept their sons even close now. So you have to walk in the footsteps and the trade of your fathers. You have to become the next generation who opposes the Muslims. So they were, where possible, they were trying to keep them as close as possible. So Amr ibn al-As is called, saying, look, this is your moment to shine now. This is your promotion from being just one of the youth. This is your transition coming into the Dar Nadwa, coming into the court, the imperial court of these Quraysh leaders. Your time has come. This is your mission. You're gonna go to your friend Najashi, and you're gonna go and capture all of our civilians and bring them back to us at any cost. And Amr ibn al-As was very, very, eloquent in his tongue, and he was very, very quick-witted. He was very clever in the way his response was. He was very, very clever in the way he could speak. So they knew that with these skills, they pumped him up, saying, look, you're very good with your words. You're very negotiative. You're very persuasive. And he's your friend. We're going to give you, all of the budget, a big budget that you need for this mission. Take all the gifts that you need. Take whatever you need. Go, and you have to fulfill this mission. And you'll make your father proud, and this seat will be yours. There'll be a seat reserved for you. So naturally, this is his moment. All of his friends, all of the other youths are going to naturally cheer him on. This is your moment, Amr ibn al-As. You can go. You can do this. He goes to the idols. He makes a sacrifice. He does all of this. He gets ready and he leaves Makkah. So this is my moment to shine. This is my promotion. And he goes days and nights until he reaches into the court of Najashi. And Najashi naturally welcomes his friends friend, they will greet each other, hug each other, and he's so happy. And he, sits down, oh, my friend, come, let's catch up. And Amr ibn al-As comes and says, no, I've got all these gifts for you. Look, Najashi, I've got this for you. I've got that for you. And he, butters him up, sweets him up with all of these gifts. Say, look how good of a friend I am. I've missed you so much. And he uses his skill of speaking to get Najashi, on his side. And then Amr ibn al-As, slowly, as he's talking, he said, look, I've got something very important to talk to you about. He said, there's a group of people that came from an unknown land that have fled their land because of so-called persecution, and they came to you. And Najashi says, yes, I recall these people came. I gave them a safe haven here. So Amr ibn al-As then starts to use his skills of persuasion to talk Najashi out of trusting them and saying, they're this, they're that, there's this. And until he paints such a dark picture regarding these people, and even Najashi is worried. Saying, wow, you've let these refugees, they're going to ruin your town, they're going to ruin your country, they're going to ruin your land. They're this, they're that, they're liars, don't trust them. They're miscreants and all of these things. They're rebels. Until Najashi is scared. So he calls his people and he summons the people of the Muslims. He summons the Sahaba and he calls them into his court. And as the Sahaba entered into the court, they were naturally worried, saying, they've just managed to enjoy this happiness for a few limited days. And what's happened? Are we going to get kicked out? Is our time limited here? As they entered the court, what do they see? Amr ibn al-As. And they know that this can't be good. This can't be a good sign. This means, number one, the Quraysh knows where we are. They've tracked us down. We've been caught. And this must mean that they've come to capture us back. And naturally, this was something that was scary for the Sahaba. So the Sahaba come and stand in front of Najashi. And at this moment, the spokesperson, the representative that is appointed from all of the Sahaba is Jafar radiallahu anhu, the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who's very, very beloved to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the son of Abu Talib and the brother of Ali radiallahu anhu, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. Sayyidina Jafar radiallahu anhu stands in front of the Sahaba, in front of Najashi, in front of Amr ibn al-As, and it becomes almost like a kind of a showdown or a debate between the persuasive Amr ibn al-As and Sayyidina Jafar radiallahu anhu. And he has to now be a spokesperson for the Muslims and argue the case for the Muslims. And all of these allegations are put on, saying, is it true you're a rebel? Is it true that you deserted the religion of your forefathers and you come up with a new religion? And to all of these allegations, Sayyidina Jafar radiallahu anhu, he answers powerfully that we aren't rebels. We simply, in a land where we were oppressed, in a land where women were oppressed, where slaves were oppressed, where people were filled with greed, and he mentions all of the traits of Jahiliyyah. Saying to all of this, Allah SWT sent us a messenger, a Rasul from him, that taught us the true worship of the one Allah, away from the shirk and idolatry, and all of those evil things, that injustices that we do, to treat our mothers well, to treat our women well, to treat our people well, to have good akhlaq, to honor people, to be truthful. And he mentioned all of the traits of Islam. And then he said, this is what we stand for. And for this, they have persecuted us. They have called us rebels. They have made us, tortured us such that we have had to flee our own hometown and come to you, O Najashi. And to this, Najashi's heart starts to sink. And he begins to feel such pain for these people. And he turns to his friend Amr ibn al-As and says, is this true? And when Amr ibn al-As realizes, oh no, this is going pear-shaped, this is going against me, he like we said, he was very persuasive. He was very quick-witted. So he says to Najashi, he says, yes, but they have deserted their religion. And they come with a new religion where they say that Najashi and this region, they were Christians. So he says to Najashi that they swear and insult your Lord Jesus Christ. And they say that he is this, he is that. Naturally, now knowing that plan A is failed, plan B, let me turn you against them because of religious differences. Look, they don't believe in the Christ that you believe in. They say is this, they say is that. So Najashi turns and he says, what do you say regarding the Lord Jesus Christ? So at this moment now, Sayyidina Jafar says, we say what the Quran taught us. And he reads the beautiful verses of Surah Maryam regarding the chapter dedicated in the Quran to Maryam alayhi salam. But not only what we believe about Isa alayhi salam, but what we believe about Maryam alayhi salam. And when these verses are recited, those beautiful verses of Surah Maryam penetrate into the heart of Najashi, and Najashi stands up with tears in his eyes, and he says, there is the difference between you and us is literally minuscule. And he turns to Amr ibn al-As and says, no matter what happens, you can take your gifts back. I will never ever leave these people to you. I will never ever let these people go. These people are under my protection, and they are even more beloved to him now. And he realized that you believe in the same Allah and you believe in the same Isa alayhi salam that we believe in. We have differences in the notion that we have regarding him, and the notion that we have, some notion that we have regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you believe nonetheless, you call upon Allah that we are trying to call upon, and you believe in the same Isa alayhi salam, the same Jesus Christ that we believe in. And at this moment, Amr ibn al-As is absolutely, he feels defeated. He thinks, no, plan A is not work, plan B is not work. And he tries a plan C, he tries everything. And no matter what happens, none of his plans work. And he returns defeated from the court of Najashi by the beautiful answers and the beautiful stance of the Muslims under the leadership and the representation of Sayyidina Jafar radiallahu anhu. And he is now completely disheartened, thinking, this was supposed to be the opportunity of a lifetime. How do I go back to Quraysh? And his journey is so long because he's trying to prolong his journey as much as he can, because he doesn't want. At one moment he can't wait to go back to Makkah. Now he can't wait to he doesn't want to go back to Makkah. He doesn't want to approach Makkah until he has to eventually go into Makkah and come back into the Quraysh and say to them, "I'm sorry, I tried my best. This is what happened." And he told them the whole story. And he even he did all my sacrifices to all these sacrifices to these idols, worthless. All his friends are like trying to say, "Oh no, this wasn't how it was supposed to turn out." And he's asked him in a while, is like, "Oh, what have you done?" He's almost, you failed me as a father. And so Amr ibn al-As goes through a very difficult moment at this moment, because what was supposed to be his promotion becomes like a demotion, because the Quraysh is like calling him a failure, and they're taking all the anger on him. And they're so angry because upon all of the defeats upon defeats, one big defeats, we lost 100 or so of our civilians. And then we've managed to track them down. And now instead of you going and capturing them, bring them back, the trail's gone cold, and all of that for nothing. You've actually gone and cemented their place. So now we can never get them back. So Amr ibn al-As is really, really disheartened, and he's really upset. And the Quraysh are angry because of two huge things that have happened now. One, losing them from their clutches, and two, not being able to get them back. And now knowing that the Muslims have Najashi on their side, now they have a king, an emperor, and a ruler on their side. And these were people who were so evil that they were so evil and their hearts were so corrupt that just the thought of these Muslims just having an innocent, happy life was boiling their blood. They couldn't bear them being happy. They just wanted to see them in pain. That's how much hatred they had in their hearts. This is the state that Makkah is in. And now at this state, they are now rightly making sure that because of what happened, they're keeping an even closer eye on all of their youth, on all of their youngsters, saying no matter what happens, we can't let these people fail. We can't let these. We have to train them up. We have to keep them closer to us. They have to be the ones that continue these evil plans and inherit the father's trade, and take on these seats in Quraysh and continue this mission against the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the people who stand for haqq and good, because this monopoly has to continue for them, and their names and titles have to continue. Their monopoly has to continue, and as they get older, they know that our sons have to become the strength, the youth that will defend our monopolies and all of these so-called power and legions that we've doomed over Makkah. All of this has to be preserved by our sons for us, so we can continue enjoying our retirement plans. When we don't even have to lift a finger, we barely do anything right now, but we don't even have to worry about keeping this up. But rather, day by day, they're seeing cracks form, and all of these monopolies and all of these rules that we have over, or we're losing it day by day. The ground beneath our feet is shrinking. 5 years and we're just losing more and more. We can't take any more. So now they keeping a close eye and winding and filling more and more rubbish into their sons, to make sure that the next generation is just as corrupt as they are. And like this, the sons are now even becoming more and more averse to the Muslims, and they are even breaking friendship with their best friends. If you dare sympathize with the Muslims, we'll break friends with you. Sayyidina Khalid ibn Walid, the son of Walid al-Mughira, would be so staunch against his brother Walid ibn Walid because he used to sympathize with the Muslims. And like this, days goes by until eventually Walid ibn Walid becomes a Muslim. Walid ibn Walid proclaims the Shahada, and he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. The Walid ibn Walid is those who are tortured in Makkah, because now the son of Walid ibn Mughira, one of the third foremost leaders of Makkah, his son has become Muslim. So now Ayyash, Salama, and Walid ibn Walid, these people, Walid ibn Walid ibn Mughira, the son of Walid ibn Mughira, all of these people are being tortured, and with now losing another influential son of Makkah, they couldn't take anymore. They continued and continued to strengthen their sons even more, until there comes a day where the Prophet ﷺ is in the haram and he's praying salah on his own. And it is one of those rare occasions where he's actually left alone, and it's like almost like a peaceful nighttime, if you will. And he knows that there's no one that's going to come right now. And everyone's away. There's no Darun Nadwa prying upon him. There's no one that's going to come and pounce upon him. He's just on his own, and there's no one here. And he can peacefully pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the haram. But at this moment, what happens? Umar ibn Khattab, one of the strongest enemies, opponents to Islam at the moment, it was not now, but one of the strongest opponents to Islam at this moment, enters into the haram. And he notices his sight that, wait a minute, there's no one here, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is praying on his own. So Umar ibn Khattab quickly, in a discreet manner, goes and clings himself to the walls of the Kaaba. And he looks over the corner and sees where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is praying. Until he takes the kiswa, the cloth of the Kaaba, and he puts it over him. And he shimmies across the walls of the Kaaba, going from corner to corner to corner, until he's right close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he can peek from the gaps in the cloth, and he can see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And now this is a dangerous moment, because this strong Sahabi, who is so powerful and so strongly an opponent to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is now standing with no one else there. It's just him and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he opens that gap, and he's looking now, and he's spying upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ready to and able to make whatever move he wants on Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And at this moment, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is praying the salah, and he's reading the verses of the Quran, powerfully reading the verses of the Quran. Now, whilst he is reading the Quran, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab has now come first hand into the contact with the Quran. This is the first time that Umar ibn Khattab is coming into contact with the Quran. First hand, his ears are hearing the Quran. And at this moment, whilst he's open and he's peeking, something overcomes him, and he's just like, whoa. And he's bewildered by the beauty and the power of the Quran. And that the light of the Quran begins to penetrate through his heart. The words of the Quran begin to penetrate into the heart of Umar ibn Khattab. And remember, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was just on his own praying Quran, praying his salah. And how beautiful that sight must have been, as the beautiful unmatched recitation, in the beautiful unmatched voice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the beautiful style of recitation, the powerful recitation of the one who bore the Quran in his heart, was reciting in the peaceful night as it echoes through the streets of Makkah, through the haram. What sight must that have been? Without even any sound system, without any speaker system. Just imagine that moment when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was praying Quran, and it's echoing through the walls of the Kaaba and around the haram. And Umar ibn Khattab gets to witness this sight, and his heart is just amazed by the Quran, amazed by the Quran. And at this moment, whilst he's peeking through, he starts to think to himself, he forgets what he's come there for. Put aside what I've come here for, or whatever plans and intent he had. He's thinking to himself, wow. But then very quickly he's trying to come to his senses, saying, no. This must be the sorcery. This must be, this or this must be some poetry. And what is this? And he thinks to himself, I've never heard poetry like this. This is beyond the poetry that I've heard. This is beyond all of the most mesmerizing, soothing, amazing poetry that we used to hear. This is better than all of this. This is better than all the songs that we used to listen to. Better than all of those lyrics. This is beyond. And innately, subconsciously, he's thinking to himself, actually, it's not even. It's unlike anything that I've heard. You can't even compare it to the songs and lyrics and poetry that I've heard. But wow, I don't know what category to put it in the words. But this must be the most amazing poetry I've ever heard. And at that moment, the very next verse that the Prophet ﷺ reads of the Quran says that this is not the word of a poet. This isn't the word of a poet. And at that moment, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab is thinking, did I say it aloud? No, I was thinking it quietly. How? How is this possible? And now the one who is in hiding is scared by the one who is being excited. The Prophet ﷺ can't see Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab. Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab is in hiding. He's stealthily hidden himself and shimmying across. There's no way for anyone to know that there's anyone here, let alone knowing that Umar ibn Khattab is hiding behind that cloth. And he is spying on this moment. But Umar ibn Khattab is like, I just thought to myself, and I'm asking myself the question, saying, have you ever heard poetry like this? And the very next verse, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam read this isn't the word of a poet. This isn't poetry, in other words. And straight away, Shaitan puts the thought, this must be sorcery. And the very next verse says, this isn't the word of a sorcerer. This isn't magic or sorcery or soothsaying. And at that moment, Umar ibn Khattab is completely bewildered, thinking, whoa, I thought it was poetry. He said, no, it's not poetry. I thought it was sorcery. He said, no, it's not sorcery. And these verses are not revealed now. They've already been revealed. He's just praying them. But that was one of the miracles of the Quran. When you open the Quran speaks to you. When you pray Salah, you speak to Allah. When you open the Quran, Allah speaks to you. And at that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was conversing with the heart of Umar ibn Khattab through his beautiful kalam, through the words, through the mouthpiece of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Umar ibn Khattab is like, whoa, if this isn't poetry, if this isn't magic, if this isn't sorcery, what is this? Tanzeel min Rabbil Alameen. This is a revelation from the Lord of the worlds. Ask, O Umar, and I answer. In other words, every question that Umar ibn Khattab thinks in his heart, the verses of the Quran are answering him. And he is so bewildered at this moment that he leaves the cloth of the Kaaba, he runs away, and he shimmies away from this, completely, bewildered and amazed by this. And, after this, so many thoughts running through Umar ibn Khattab, because Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, he had seen Sayyidina Abu Bakr anhu, and every time he saw Abu Bakr and many of the Sahaba, and every time he had seen the endurance of the Sahaba, he used to get thoughts in his heart saying, wow, there must be some truth to this. There must be something about this religion. That look at, the power of Iman that he saw in them was bringing Hidayah to them. It was da'wah. The cries of Sayyidina Bilal, the strength of Sayyidina Bilal, the likeness of Sayyidina Zaneer, the likeness of Sayyidina Ammar ibn Yasir, Sayyidina Sumayya, Sayyidina Yasir, all of these beautiful Sahaba, their persecution and the strength of their Iman was so powerful that it penetrated and became a da'wah coming through to the heart of Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab. And like we said in the early days, that the Quran gave us the parable of the two stones, giving us an example of how guidance comes to hearts. Some hearts, one little tap of the water, or the hidayah gushes forth, and others need work, careful work, until drip by drip, then eventually the gush comes forth. So in Umar ibn Khattab, he had those little taps that started to bring drops of water, or little bits of hidayah was penetrating through his heart, through what he was seeing. But then the jahiliyyah and the ignorance and the propaganda and the fears that were instilled by Abu Jahl and the likes would come and overshadow whatever was coming. And Iblis would do his best to cover up whatever guidance and whatever opening that came in the heart and eyes of Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Until this continues and continues, until and even to this moment, his heart is now so opened up and the Quran has come into his heart. But yet, Iblis comes in the form and says, look, you might be marveling at their power and strength. You might be marveling at these words, but this Quran that you are making a link to with these people, whenever this Quran comes to these people, in other words, all they face is difficulty and persecution. And the words of Abu Jahl would echo through not only Umar ibn Khattab but the people, because when Sayyidina Zaneer, when she would be whipped and tortured, Abu Jahl would say to his cronies, saying, if Islam was something good or true, then the lowly people like Zaneer wouldn't have beaten us to it. Astaghfirullah. They were so arrogant and they had such evil, and they believed themselves to be so great, and they had so much self-arrogance. They were so blinded with their own greatness, that which was never there to begin in the first place. They were so blinded by their clothes and their riches and all these false images that they had created for themselves, that they thought that when they looked at the outwardly, like we said, it wasn't about the outwardly. You have to have the eyes of the akhirah to see the true greatness is in Iman. It isn't about the wealth, it's not what about the outside, but what is in the inside. For them, beauty was just skin deep, and that's all that matters. So for them, because of someone like Sayyidina Zaneera, radiallahu anha, who is actually one of the greatest, women of Jannah, one of the Sahabiyas of the Prophet, one of the early Muslims, one of the greatest, most beloved people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the greatest figures of this ummah, beyond this world, greater than even, the dust of her feet was greater than Abu Jahl. They're looking at her, and because of outwardly showing poverty and showing that she's being tortured, they said, if it's because of your name or your race or your color or whatever, or you're rich or your class, because of that, because Islam came to you, it shows to us that Islam isn't something honorable, because Islam would have come to us first if it was something honorable. Na'udhu billah, astaghfirullah. And the likes of Walid ibn Mughira would say things like, if Islam was honorable, and if there were to be a prophet to come, then I am na'udhu billah the greatest. I should have been a prophet. Why should Muhammad be a prophet? This was the kind of absurd, astaghfirullah, disgusting things that they would believe in their hearts, because they were blinded with their own self-praise. Astaghfirullah. That's how evil these people were. And these kind of things, these people would now inculcate the heart of Umar ibn Khattab, and then Iblis would say, look, there's truth in their words. If Islam was something honorable, would Zarina and the likes of them, bringing these images of Zarina in front of Umar ibn Khattab, saying, look, the Quran, look at what it's done to him. The Quran has brought difficulty upon them. The Quran has brought all this pain upon them, all this severity upon them. And like this, he was distant, said Umar ibn Khattab, whenever his heart would open up to Islam and he would start thinking about Islam again, his heart, Iblis would come and Shaitan would come and put these same thoughts, and the Iblis in human form, the Quraysh would come and influence Umar ibn Khattab again until he would become distant from the message of Islam. And they would continue this days upon days upon day. And on the other hand, now you had the Quraysh who would continue the difficulties no matter what happened on the Prophet ﷺ, until a day comes when the Prophet ﷺ is in the Haram and he's just walking into the Haram, intending to either pray or salah or just minding his own business, not harming anyone. And Abu Jahl sees the Prophet ﷺ, and with that same disgusting face, his red gleaming face with the hatred that he had, and Iblis boiling his blood, Abu Jahl stands up and he just walks up to the Prophet ﷺ, who doesn't say a word to Abu Jahl. And Abu Jahl begins to start abusing the Prophet ﷺ, and his face getting more and more red, his blood boiling, his teeth grinding, and his anger grinding more and more. And he starts to abuse the Prophet ﷺ, who's just innocently not saying a word and just listening to all of this and showing the utmost akhlaq and respect, even at this moment. And at this moment, what happens is the Abu Jahl his face begins to change such, and his disgusting, wretched form was transforming such that there was a slave girl nearby who had become Muslim, and she was seeing all of this, and she was so worried about the safety of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, saying, I don't know what he's gonna do. And she gets scared and she goes and runs for help, until she goes, and as she's running, she sees that sight when Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would regularly go for hunting. And when he would come back from hunting, he was his practice that he would go back into the Haram and he would pray at the Kaaba. So Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib is the one that is returning from his hunting session as he would, going on his en route towards the Kaaba. And at this moment, this slave girl is running frantically, pale faced, and she bumps into Hamza and she calls out Hamza, saying, oh Hamza, and she's frantic. And Hamza ibn Muttalib is like, what happened? He said, Abu Jahl, it's Abu Jahl. He's met your nephew Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Haram, and I'm worried about what he's gonna do to the Messenger of Allah. I'm worried about what he's gonna harm the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's gonna harm your nephew. And at this moment, Hamza, who loved his nephew, Hamza's heart, blood starts to boil. His heart says, no, how dare he touch my beloved nephew? And Hamza gallops his conveyance and he starts to march towards the Haram until he comes off. And by the time he reaches the Haram, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam isn't there to be found. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has gone back. And Abu Jahl is just there sitting with his cronies. And as soon as Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib sees that sight, he's just come back from hunting, remember? He has his weapons in his arm. He has his quiver. He has his bow in his arm, in his hand. And he clenches on his bow and he marches towards Abu Jahl. And he screams at Abu Jahl saying, are you the one that reviled my nephew? Is it true that you said this to my nephew? And at that moment, Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, you have to remember, he's a very strong individual. He's a very powerful individual. And Abu Jahl just pretending to be strong. In reality, he was a coward. And you're going to see at this moment how much of a coward he is. That when Hamza towers upon him, and even though he's on his own, and all of the Quraysh and cronies all of the cronies of Abu Jahl, and all of his goons and men are there, Abu Jahl at this moment is so scared that he looks and he's almost drooling. He's almost licking his lips, thinking, he's gulping. He doesn't know how to answer Hamza. And Hamza says again, did you do this to my nephew? And Abu Jahl, before he can even say something, Abu Jahl tries to defend himself, because at the same time, when he looks around, inside he's fretting it. Inside he's about to urinate in himself. Like that's how much of a coward he is. But outwardly, he had to still show something. So he decides to be a clever clock and say something. And before he can say anything, Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib takes that quiver that he's clenching through and beats the head of Abu Jahl until Abu Jahl falls on the ground. And as he strikes his head, Abu Jahl comes up with blood on his head. And at that moment, the goons of Abu Jahl stand up to his defense. And Abu Jahl is so scared, he says, no, it's okay, leave him. I deserve this. I did what I did. So, yep, he's right. Because that's how scared he is of Hamza. That he says, yep, I accept. I deserve this. Just anything to get Hamza away. Now it's not even about the public persona. Before I get even more humiliated, I'm scared. Just go. At that moment, Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, that brave person, the brave uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he turns to all of the Quraysh, looks at all of them, and looks at Abu Jahl and he says, "Do you abuse my nephew, whilst I say what he says, and I am on his religion?" In other words, that when I say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and he declares the kalima in front of all of them, as every one of their ears, their eyes pop out, their mouths are to gasp, and their ears are about to explode. And inside they're saying, no, 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 stop. We can't hear this. Whilst they're saying, no, Hamza ibn Muttalib says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. I say what my nephew says. I walk on the path that he walks upon. I follow his religion. And I say that there is no God. All of these idols are false. You are false. Only Allah is the one true God. He is the only one worthy of worship. And my nephew Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave and his messenger. And when they said this, that sent shockwaves through the Quraysh. They literally fell back on their seats, because now not only has the sons of the Quraysh, that was already a shockwave enough, but one of the foremost elders of Quraysh, one of the foremost leaders of Quraysh, has become, from their generation, Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, the son of Abdul Muttalib, their leader, has become Muslim. And not just that, one of the most powerful and strongest men. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Oh Allah, we were weak. Strengthen us by one of the most strong individuals." Allah took one of the most honorable people and made him Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu an ibn Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who then came and left them saying, "Forget you guys, I don't even care about you guys," and went straight to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He ascertained the condition of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the safety of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then gave him the good news saying, "Oh my nephew, ashhadu la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu annaka rasulullah." I testify that Allah is the only one God worthy of worship, and I testify that you are the messenger of Allah. And at this moment, the Prophet ﷺ was so overjoyed. The Sahaba was so overjoyed. They couldn't believe their eyes. Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, my beloved uncle, Hamza, the strong lion of Quraysh, has become Muslim. And the Prophet ﷺ knew at that moment that this is the answer to his du'as. That from day one, when he was told to warn his closest people, the Prophet ﷺ was yearning for his closest family members to become Muslim. And now the first of his closest family members from the elders have become Muslim and openly declared the Shahada. And he was making dua for strength, and Allah gave him one of the strongest people of Quraysh that has become Muslim. And at this moment, the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba are celebrating, overjoyed, absolutely overjoyed, making shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a moment where the Prophet could cry tears of joy after so much pain, that my uncle has come to me, has embraced me, and has embraced La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Hidayah has entered into his heart. And Allah knows how long Hidayah was truly in his heart until he just professed it openly. And likewise, many people from the family and also from the outside of the family of the Prophet ﷺ who had become Muslim long before, but it was just a matter of them professing it. And at this moment, if our camera zooms back, as the Prophet ﷺ's beautiful smile, his innocent smile and his innocent heart feels happiness, we zoom out, we see that the Quraysh are in Dar Nadwa, pulling their hair out, absolutely fuming, furious, on their knees, saying they've just lost everything. How? His light emanated our week. His light emanated our streets. His light emanated the haram. His light penetrated the hearts of our sons. And now his heart is penetrating within our ranks. How is this possible? No matter what happens, we just can't seem to win. He just can't seem to lose. Because he never will be lost. Because he is the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. He could not be defeated. Because his victory comes from Allah. Sir fa'ant al-mansur, like we said. Go wherever you are, you will always be under my assistance. He will always be victorious by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Quraysh are just gasping, thinking, what are we supposed to do? And now their anger riles up, because not only are they're bearing with the anger of losing all of those 100 civilians, then the failed mission of Amr ibn As, and now Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib becomes Muslim. At this moment, they rile up and they get so angry that they increase their torture on the Muslims, they increase their propaganda, they increase their fear, and they spread so much hatred for the Muslims that when this reaches the ears of Umar ibn Khattab, Umar ibn Khattab gets so angry. Umar ibn Khattab says, is wound up so much that he can't take the situation of Makkah, and he sees, even within the Quraysh, at this moment they get into such a fervor, into such a state of anger that they start fighting between each other regarding how brawls and quarrels come between each other. And when Umar al-Khattab sees this chaos and madness, he can't take it anymore. And Abu Jahl at this moment gets so angry that he says, right now, I will give I will give a reward to anyone who will go and kill Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Na'udhu billah. He says, this is it. I'm declaring, not openly just yet, but he says within his close quarters to his close cronies, saying, if anyone can go and hire someone, hire an assassin, get the job done, I will reward you with thousands and millions. Saying, I will use every wealth in my power and give it to you. But in our times, it would be like saying, 1 million or more prize, a 1 million bounty put on the head of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Saying, go and kill Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this prize is yours. And like this, the whole of Makkah, in one single second, the whole of Makkah, all of the youth stood up, all of the Quraysh stood up, and the sons that were already wound up stood up, saying, right, this is it. All we have to do is get an assassin, do something in the depth of the night, in the darkness of the night. We can do whatever. We just have to go and kill Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Quraysh will give us this wealth. And what? They will even cover up our names, and they will even protect us. So even if until now, remember, one of the main reasons that we said from the third year, fourth year, they wanted to kill the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they couldn't openly because number one, his royal blood, his aristocratic blood. If they did anything to him, Banu Hashim and the lights would be able to give a death penalty and destroy those individuals who had tried to kill one of their own. If you kill one of Banu Hashim, if you kill royal blood, that's it. It's treason, and you'd be punished to death for that. So no one wanted to do that. On top of that, if the Qurayshi leaders did that, they will lose everything either way. They doing all this in the first place to protect their monopoly. If they did this, they'd lose everything and be in prison or face punishment anyway. So no one wanted to do this. So now Abu Jahl goes and says, look, we will offer you protection, we will clear your name, we'll cover everything up. And on top of that, 1 million prize or whatever in that equivalent, you just go and get the job done. And do it as discreetly as you can. So now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you zoom back out of there and go into the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam is now, the whole of Makkah is out to kill him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And yet look how brave he is. Even then he walks in the streets of Makkah and continues giving da'wah. Because like he said, he was al-Amin al-Sadiq. We can exaggerate. We can say words. The Quran tells us that how much Allah hates. Kabura maqtan in Allah. It's severe to Allah that we say that we don't do. But the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he said something, his words were backed up with actions. His words, as we've seen, whatever he said was always true. When he said to his uncle that I will continue to give my message until either I die in the process or the word of Allah prevails. He proved it time and time again that no matter what happened, even if you put a bounty on my head, doesn't matter. I can die in the process, but I won't give up La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That was the bravery and the courage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That even with this bounty, he would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he would continue in the day and go out, knowing that at any moment there could be an arrow or a sword or something coming to kill me. But he would continue going out, not even hiding. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, proclaiming the verses of the Quran, proclaiming the message of Islam, proclaiming the oneness and the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, defending the pure concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of his Lord in this world, for the mission that he was chosen, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, risking everything, risking his life to protect the innocents, risking his life to protect the oppressed, risking his life to protect his ummah in the heroes, the champion, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that would not only protect lives and save lives in this world, but that would save lives in this world and the akhirah, eternally protecting people, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That's why even the word hero, even the word superhero doesn't match the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, because he's greater than all of those, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But our champion, our savior, our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam walks through these streets and goes against the whole world now, the whole of Makkah, saying, do what you want. I stand for La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And as he continues through these streets, this mayhem this chaos is coming to another scene where Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab is affected by these images and by this madness so much that he can't take it anymore. And he remember his heart was something that was honorable. And one of the things that troubled him is, are people actually going to go and kill their own? For have we stooped so low? Have we got so much madness that not only is Quraysh fighting each other, but because of my uncle, are we going to go and kill our own? Are we going to go and kill royal blood for a prize? Is that what it's come to? Is this what? And all of this madness and all of these various things came and became so chaotic that Umar ibn al-Khattab, on top of that, you've got Iblis chewing, constantly troubling Umar ibn al-Khattab, and Shaitan constantly coming and trying to, rile up Umar ibn al-Khattab, and you have just Shaitan in human form like Abu Jahl, and all of this chaos gets to such a state that Umar ibn al-Khattab goes into a state of fervor, and he stands up, he grabs his sword, and he says, you know what? I will die for this cause. if this is what truly needs to be done, then I will end all of this madness. I will go and kill the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I will go and offer myself up to Banu Hashim. Say, look, I have killed one of yours, and I will readily take the punishment, and I will be the one who ends all of this. So with the so-called misguided notion, but a sincere intention of sorts, he stood up and he took his sword and he marched out to go and kill who? To go and kill Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. With this absolute rage inside, Umar ibn Khattab, who people feared, he marched outside until he reached that moment where a man by the name of Nu'aym traversed his path and said, Umar with a sword, with that look, this can't be good. He comes to Umar and says, where are you going? He said, I'm going to end all of this. I'm going to kill Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Astaghfirullah. And he said, then I'm going to offer myself to Banu Hashim, and I'm going to put an end to all of this madness. I'm going to put an end to all of this chaos. And this moment, Nu'aym ibn Abdullah, who was a Muslim, as some riwayahs say that he was a Muslim, secretly he was worried. So he quickly thwarts the attention of Umar ibn Khattab, saying, wait a minute, before you go and end the madness of the whole town, shouldn't you go rectify your own family first? And remember, as a person who was a secret Muslim, he knew who others were struggling being Muslim secretly. And Umar ibn Khattab says, what do you mean? What are you talking about? What about my own family? He says, your sister Fatima bint Khattab is a Muslim. Your brother-in-law Sayyid ibn Zayd, your brother, and except your family is Muslim. Shouldn't you go sort that out first? And at this moment, Umar ibn Khattab was already so mad, his face goes absolutely enraged. And he goes and marches. He goes and stomps all the way to the house of his sister, where if the camera zooms out of the scene and goes into their house, they are peacefully reading the Quran with Hazrat Khabbab radiallahu anhu. Said the Khabbab radiallahu anhu was one of the Qurra of the Quran, and he's reciting the Quran, the verses of Surah Taha, upon the sister and the brother-in-law of Umar ibn Khattab. And at this moment, Umar ibn Khattab, as he marches towards them, they hear his footstep and they hear his approach. And Hazrat Khabbab radiallahu anhu stands up and he runs into hiding. And the sister and the brother-in-law are in absolute fear at this moment. And they quickly cover everything up until Umar ibn Khattab bangs on the door. He enters into the door and he's heard, because of how close and quickly he was marching, he had heard the Quran being recited. And he knows when the air changes and when that heart, when he felt the feeling that he felt in his heart, he knows he's felt that before. He's familiar with this. That is when the Quran is being recited. So because of that, and also because as he approached, he heard the words of the Quran and he heard the voice of someone else. He enters and he begins to ask them what they're up to. And he's in that moment of rage. And his sister and his brother-in-law are trying to calm him. And said, no, what were you doing? What were you up to? Until when he can't take no for an answer, he goes up to his brother-in-law. And his brother-in-law is no coward. He says, you want to know what's happening? I have become Muslim, and so has your sister. And we declare that Allah is the one God, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger. And no sooner did he say this, that Umar ibn Khattab pounced on him and began to beat Sayyid ibn Zayd, to which the wife of Sayyid ibn Zayd began to protect her beloved husband. And Fatima bint Khattab was also a strong woman. She went against her brother and tried to defend her husband until Umar ibn Khattab, in that anger and rage, whacked his sister in the face with such a severe blow that said that Fatima ibn Khattab fell back and had blood on her face because of how badly she'd been tortured and been beaten. Until Sayyidina Umar Khattab, when he kept on beating until he turned and he saw the blood on his sister's face and saw that he's about to take the life of Sayyid ibn Zayd. When this happened, he's quickly held back and he came to his senses and he said, what's happening? Because at the end of the day, he still loved his sister dearly. And his heart wasn't an evil heart that could be blinded by dishonor and greed and evil. Even though he was enraged, he said it might have been a misguided notion, but he was of in sincere intention of sorts. And his heart was still honorable. And hidayah, parts of hidayah still entered in his heart. That quickly calmed him when he looked. And when he looked left and he saw this scene, he quickly left back and he started to compose himself, saying, oh Umar, what have you done? And when he sees his sister and his brother-in-law trying to compose themselves, he's like, what have I done? And they're saying, look, just go away from us. And at this moment, he apologizes and he says, look, I'm really sorry for what I've done. And he's gasping, what came over me? What have I done? And no sooner does he calm, then he says, look, I'm really sorry. And as he calms down, he says, look, I promise I won't do anything. And at that moment, as he calms, as the anger goes away, and as the heat of anger and the influence of Iblis, Shaitan, starts to wear away from him, and he calms down, that light of hidayah, that effect of listening to those few verses of Quran starts to revive in his heart. And he says, what were you praying when I came? And his brother and sister says, no, we're not taking any. No, I'm serious. I'm really sorry, but please tell me, what were you listening to, and what were you reciting when I came? Who was reciting? At this moment, saying the Khabbab who comes out and he says, look, that was me reciting the Quran. The Quran that you and all of the Quraysh are trying to run away from, and the Quran that you were trying, and the Quraysh are saying such bad things about. And he says, look, can I see what you're reading? And his sister says, no. If Umar al-Khattab was strong, so was his sister. Says, no, you're impure and you're unclean. I won't let you touch the Quran. It's not coming. You're not coming anywhere near it. So Umar al-Khattab says, okay, fine. What do I have to do? She says, go and clean yourself first. She's a powerful, strong woman. Fatima bin Khattab was a very powerful, strong woman. So she goes and says, if you're Umar al-Khattab, I'm Fatima bin Khattab. Go and clean yourself. So he goes, in other words, and he goes and then performs, purification. He comes back. This is now, can I? So they reluctantly give him the scroll upon which Sayyidina Khabbab was reading the opening verses of Surah Taha. I said, Umar al-Khattab takes this. And the moment he holds these verses in front of him, this is glorious moment where we can't even imagine, Wallahu alam, how that exact scene must have been. But if you try and imagine what must be going through in his heart, from the last time and the first and the last time that he became in contact with the Quran, when he was hiding behind those drapes, that flashback must be running through his mind, and how he felt when the Quran was, and the beauty of the Quran was just penetrating through his heart. And he said, in his heart, he asked, saying, is this poetry? And the knower of all hearts, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was responding through his words of the Quran, this isn't poetry. Is this magic and sorcery? No, it's not the work of a sorcerer. It's not magic, it's not sorcery. What is this? Tanzeelun min Rabbil Alameen. It's a revelation from the Lord of the worlds. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly answered his questions, he sat there, laid open, with his heart open, ready to accept hidayah. But then Iblis came, Shaitan came and said, look at these people. Look at the Quran that you were trying to accept, and look at the people that accept the Quran. And he made a link that, look, those who accept the Quran, they are faced by difficulty and hardship. They are faced by pressure and difficulty, taklif, shiqawa. They are faced by difficulty. And that was the driving force of Iblis. And Abu Jahl and likes, look, these people are not worthy, and all of this, chaos that had come and covered up his heart. Since that last time, all of those flashbacks must be running through his mind. And now he's coming in contact with the Quran again, and it's in front of him. And as his ayat come through his eyes, and he was one of those who could read and write, as his ayat come through his eyes, enter through his heart's in that fervor again of when the Quran and the hidayah starts to pump through his heart, pump through his veins. He can feel this state of the nur of hidayah, the nur of la ilaha illallah coming through, even though he doesn't know what it is. And whilst he's feeling this state, and this Quran is in front of him, he remembers those words of Iblis, of Shaitan, and those reasons that I didn't give in to this beautiful feeling, because this Quran is something that brings difficulty upon people. That's why I was scared, and I was avoiding this Quran. Now it's in front of me. And no sooner does he look down upon those ayat that he's so bewildered by, and he starts reading, and the very first verses that he reads, the words of his Lord, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to him once again, and he goes back into that, says, as he reads, Taha ma anzalna alayka al-Quran litashqa. We have not revealed this Quran to bring difficulty upon you. We have not revealed this Quran to bring hardship and struggles upon you. And at that moment, as he's reading the Quran in his own words now, the nur of hidayah and the power of the Quran is cracking through his veins, through his blood, through his body, through his heart, as his heart's pumping, and his heart is feeling that freedom of hidayah, as La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah enters through his heart. And he looks down and he continues reading verse after verse after verse, not unable to stop until he gets to the last verse. Innani ana Allah fa'budni. Indeed, I am Allah. As though Allah's introducing himself to Umar ibn Khattab through this Quran that speaks to its reader, saying, I am Allah, so worship me. Don't ascribe partners to me. Worship me alone. And Umar ibn Khattab is trembling, his heart pounding, and he looks up and he says, is this what we've been running away from? Is this what we've been running away? In other words, is this what we've been hiding from? Is this what the media made us fear? Is this beautiful Quran what we were worried about? Is this what Shaitan took us away from? Is this what we, in other words, we had marches against? Is this what we made the world go against? Is this what we spread propaganda against? Is this that Quran? And so Umar al-Khattab stands up and says, this can only be from Allah. This can only be the truth. And now Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu has iman in his heart. He stands up and he says, I have to go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What have I done? He walked out to kill the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he walked to the Prophet ﷺ at that door as a Muslim. He walked out of his door with the target of as the door of the Prophet ﷺ. He walked out of his door as someone who was going to kill the Prophet ﷺ. But he approached the door of the Messenger ﷺ as someone who wanted to serve his religion. That is how Allah gives hidayah in the most mysterious of ways. And subhanAllah, Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab manages to find the Prophet ﷺ at Darul Arqam, where he is there with the other Sahaba. And he comes and he knocks at the door. And some of the other Sahaba come, and as we have, our door, the eye hinges of the door, whatever they're called, where we look through and we see who is at the door. They also had similar mechanism when they look and they saw Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab, or they would open the door in a sec and they see Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab, with his weapon, and they come and they warn the Prophet saying, Umar al-Khattab, that strong opponent, he's come and he's with his sword. And the Sahaba are worried not for themselves, but they're worried for the Prophet ﷺ. But look at the bravery of the Prophet ﷺ. He says, no, allow him to come in. Let him come in. And the Sahaba, they reluctantly open the door. And then Umar al-Khattab comes and he stands in front of the Prophet ﷺ. And that Umar al-Khattab, with such a humble state, with his eyes about to well up in tears, says, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, I have come here to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu annaka Rasulullah. I testify that there is no God except Allah, and I testify that you are the Messenger of Allah. And as these words of the Shahada flow through the emotional tongue of Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab, it brought tears of joy and happiness to the heart of the Prophet ﷺ, and all of those Sahaba that rejoiced so happily as they turned to each other saying, is this true? And the Sahaba are like, whoa, on top of Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, we have such a strong and influential character. Umar ibn al-Khattab has become Muslim. The last person we expect is to become Muslim. And that is it. Look how Allah guides. We can't judge anyone. That the person who we least expected has become Muslim. The person who used to beat us has become Muslim. He's become Muslim. One of our biggest opponents has become Muslim. He's come and submitted to the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam so sincerely, with so much love and muhabbat, with so much iman in his heart. That stone has that iman gushing through now. That heart has that iman gushing through it. And we can see it. And while the Sahaba are elated, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has those tears of joy as he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted my dua. All those nights in tahajjud, all those du'as in all those salahs that he prayed, all those times he made dua, saying, oh Allah, strengthen Islam by Amr ibn Hisham or Umar al-Khattab. And when he was told by revelation that Amr ibn Hisham will never accept, he said, oh Allah, khassa, especially by Umar ibn Khattab, that he became Muslim through the dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet made dua for his opponent, and Allah made him one of the greatest Sahaba, the second Khalifa of Islam, Umar ibn Khattab, the one whose iman is so strong that when he walks through the streets, Shaitan walks away. Shaitan runs away. That person stands in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a manifestation of the answer of the dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah spoke through his Quran to Umar ibn Khattab directly through his beautiful words and guided him to Islam. And now the Sahaba are so elated, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is so happy. And look what Umar ibn Khattab does. Until this moment, like we said, many people have become Muslim, but no one had openly proclaimed Islam. People had become, people who were caught, people who were exposed, saying, look, they've become Muslim. People who were caught and whatever, and you had only certain rich individuals like Abu Hudayfa, the son of Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, when he heard about what Utbah did to the Prophet ﷺ, we said he went to the Kaaba and declared as a way to show his father, don't ever harm the Messenger ﷺ. Say, look, I'm Muslim. But in the end, he paid the price for that, such that he had to go and migrate to Abyssinia. He's not even in his home anymore. He's living as a refugee in a hometown, in a foreign place. So whoever became Muslim paid the price for that. But look, saying that Umar ibn Khattab is going to be someone completely different. Look at the strength that Allah gave to him. The moment he leaves the door of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in that same city with that same sword in his hand, he goes out, and look what he does. He looks left and right, and he finds a man who he knows, who is known to be the ultimate, gossiper. The one who's gonna, you tell him anything, he's gonna be the one who spreads it the most. He's gonna go and make it viral. He's gonna go and the biggest kind of gossiper you have. He's gonna go and tell everyone. He can't wait to go and spread it to every person. He's gonna put it on all his social media accounts: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, you name it, whatever he's got, Snapchat, whatever he's got, he's gonna put it on. He's gonna go and broadcast it to as many people as he knows. He's gonna go and put it in writing and go and spread it to as many people as he can. So Umar al-Khattab sees this person and he's like, that's my guy. So Umar al-Khattab goes to him and he comes to him and he says, listen, he goes, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Knowing that this is the exact person that's going to go and spread this. He says, guess what? I've become Muslim. I've become Muslim, and I declare and I testify that there is no God except Allah, and then Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his final messenger and servant. And no sooner does he says this, that for him this is like, this is gold. I've got gold. He stands up and he runs up to the haram, and he goes to the center of the haram. And not even the center, as soon as he enters into the precincts of the haram, he starts shouting loudly, saying, Umar has become Muslim. Like, this isn't even one to one. I have to broadcast this as loud as possible because someone else can beat me to it. His Umar ibn Khattab has become an apostate. Umar ibn Khattab has become a Sabi. He's become a Muslim. He's declared the faith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he keeps screaming and screaming until all of the Quraysh come out of Dar Nadwa. They rush out saying, what nonsense, saying, stop this, you idiot, you stupid person, stop this. They start swearing at him and saying all these things, stuff to him, saying, stop at once. What rubbish are you saying? Umar would never do such a thing. Stop it, meaning stop putting salt to our wounds. We've already lost Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. We've lost 100 civilians. The mission's failed. We're already so angry. We're just about trying to figure out what to do. And we're fighting amongst ourselves. And you're coming and giving us this in the midst of, like we said, Umar al-Khattab, what led him to go out in the first place? All of the madness in Makkah. Think, among all of this madness, we don't need another thing, to come and tell us, to dishearten us. Stop it right now. And he's like, no, I'm telling you, he has become an apostate. And they're like, stop it right now. Shut up. And they're getting angry with him and ready to attack him. And at that moment, when all of the Quraysh are standing in front of him, he's like, no, believe me, he has become a Sabi. He's become a Muslim. And now this whole audience has formed. So you've got the expanse of the haram, the Quraysh are standing in front, this gossiper is standing in front of them, screaming this, and all of these audiences formed. And in front of this huge audience, and this gossiper who's standing in front of Quraysh saying this, right behind him, standing them, watching this scene is, from the shadows, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, who's watching all of this. And he says, now is the exact time. He comes right out in front in the open. He exposes himself in front of the open, and he marches right in front of them, stands tall, one man against all of them, looking into the eyes of Abu Jahl and all of the Quraysh and everyone. And some riwayah says he even individually went door to door, and in front of the whole haram, he declares, what he says is true. I have become Muslim. I testify to your face, in your face, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. That all of the idols are false. Allah is the one Almighty God, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the final messenger and servant. And as he says this, the Quraysh, each one of them, their faces go red and pale, and they can't tolerate this. Their blood was already boiling. Now it's like, like when a pan just completely boils over and everything starts to flood everywhere. That's how much anger and evil is resourcing from all of them, until they can't take this. The Quraysh leaders don't know what to do. They turn around, looking at each other, gasping, eyes popping out, with clutching to their heads, going into Darul Nadwa, like, we can't take this, we can't take this. And they're on their knees saying, why? How can this happen? Meanwhile, the people of Quraysh start to attack Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, and he's taking this beating all on his own, defending himself, until his tribe Adi come to his rescue and say, look, he's still one of us, and you can't harm him whilst he's one of ours. And like this, all of the people go, and Umar ibn Khattab, even then, he's like, you know what? I'm still not going to be quiet. He still starts saying it, and his tribe's like, come on, just calm down for a moment. He's like, no, I've kept this quiet long enough. La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. And as he declares more and more, it empowers not only him, but all of the Muslims that were in hiding say, Umar has done this. They cheer, and this is such a triumphant moment that all of those people who were in hiding got empowered to come out and say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, until the Quraysh leaders who are already in anguish have to turn and watch how Allah disgraces them, saying they're hearing the triumphant cries and that are echoing through the streets of Makkah, and all they're hearing is again and again and again as pain to their hearts, striking them like arrows, and these beautiful arrows that have written on them, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, saying as though Allah is showing them, you can do whatever you want. I am the only one, creator and cherisher, sustainer, nourisher, and Lord and power for control of all. And Muhammad is my messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hear it, listen to it, digest it, know it, memorize it, because you're never going to be able to escape it. And whilst they're in this anguish, the Muslims and the Sahaba are absolutely elated, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given izzah and strength to Islam by not just one, but by two beautiful Sahaba by the name of Sayyidina Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib and Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, who accepted Islam. And now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has this beautiful moment to enjoy, and he is so happy, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And at this moment, what happens is that the Quraysh, not only days go by and the Quraysh are in their Darul Nadwa, day in day out, they are planning, as we know. But whilst the Muslims are, as this scene fades off for us, and we go back into the very next early mornings, days after these incidents, in a short time you're going to see that the Quraysh reach such a boiling point that they say, look, we've tried everything we can, we've tortured them, we've persecuted them, we've made life a nightmare for them, we've done everything we can, we've even given a death order, put a bounty on his head, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but no matter what happens, we're not getting anywhere. This is the end now. We're not going to have this is the final moment. What happens? Abu Jahl and some of the evilest leaders of Quraysh, they come and they don't even, the way that we have, even in our times, we have our main parliament leaders, we have our main government, if you will, but we know that certain big decisions, they have a wider cabinet, they have a wider group of people who have to give their say. They have a secretary in different and different heads and deputies of different factions that have important say, and those says are then in their presence, these decisions are made. Likewise in the Quraysh, certain big decisions would be written in, they would have a constitution that would be hung in the Kaaba, these with different scrolls that would say this is written by the official scribe and documented and signed by the official, all of the officials of the Quraysh that were given these responsibilities. And such big decisions could only come by their mandate. But the Quraysh on this occasion know that they're about to take a very big step and a very big decision that requires all of these people's signatures. But what they do is they know that they don't want to spoil this, and they know that the Quraysh themselves also divided on how to, and they're fighting amongst themselves. So the evilest of amongst them leave their own cronies and they come together and they say, you know what? We know that there's some who are as evil as us, and we know there's some who are honorable amongst us. Leave all of them. These few people come and they plan an evil plot in their evil lies on their own, saying, look, it's between us now. What are we going to do? And they make this kind of self-fraction within them, and they come to the conclusion that now is the time that we're going to make an ultimate boycott. We're going to make an ultimate kind of exile, where we're going to exile all of these people mercilessly until we can't stop them. So now the only way is we're going to narrow them into a place where they have no choice but to just live in there until they die, until they all die and they're wiped out in that place. We're going to have to do ethnic cleansing now, no matter what happens. And they come up with an evil plan to take all those people who are Muslim and all of the supporters of the Muslims, even if they're not Muslim, and all of the family of the Prophet ﷺ, and take them and detain them into this small boycotted area where they will be detained and just live the remainder of their life until they all die and rot away there with no food and no drink, no one allowed to visit them, no one allowed to marry them, nothing. Saying they will be barred off from all amenities of life, literally just put in a jail or literally in a concentration camp where they are just left to die. And because this is such a big thing, because it's Banu Hashim, these are one of the foremost royal families of Quraysh, we have to have this signed right now. So they take one of the scribes of Quraysh and they start writing a constitution, saying as of this moment onwards, it has been declared by all of the leaders of Quraysh that this is part of our constitution now. All of these innocent Muslims and all of these people who aren't even Muslim, if they're part of Banu Hashim, if they're sympathizing with Muslims, all of them will be treated as such and such and such, A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. Once all of these points are noted down, this scribe, the official constitution will be done on a specific kind of letter-headed paper, if you will, and a specific type of scroll for the Quraysh. And only the Quraysh leaders who had access to the Kaaba would go and hang it with the rest of the constitutions. So they went and they secretly wrote this constitution, and they secretly went into the Kaaba and hung this constitution. And all of these constitutions started off with, because as we said, although the most evil and corruptive Quraysh, they had no beliefs, they had no morals. Whatever they did was to pretend. But overall, the overall Quraysh still believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they ascribed shirk and partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that were false, and Allah has no partner. And they ascribed notions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that were false. They spoke about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lying, making false allegations against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. SubhanAllah, He's beyond all of those. He's free from all of those, that whatever they ascribe to Him. But they still believed in Allah. So the official documents would start off with Bismillah. In your name of Allah we start, and then they would put the names of the other idols and the other false deities, but they would start with at the top Bismillah. That would be like the letterhead of the Quraysh, of the constitutions. So this is on the official letterhead, Bismillah. The document is done, and all of these points are written regarding Banu Hashim, signed. The declaration is given and is hung up in the Kaaba secretly, closed doors, and Abu Jahl gets to go and say, look, we've basically cheated the system. We've forged this document, put it in, and done whatever we had to, and we've got the signatures that we needed. And he goes out and then he declares openly as a sudden surprise. This happens all in a short space of time in hidden space. All of a sudden, he sends his march out, his troops out. Say, look, we can't make a big hoo-ha about this until all the other leaders find out. We have to just make it pretend as though this is always part of the plan. It was always in the Kaaba. It was always done. So without any declaration or without any formal kind of hoo-ha or announcement, he just goes and takes all of his men, all of the police of Makkah, because like we said, Abu Talib was very old, and Abu Talib was overpowered by all of the other leaders of Quraysh. Because whenever something like this happened, Abu Talib always tried his best to fight against Abu Jahl, to fight against Utbah and all of the Walid ibn Mughira. But he was an old man that was one. He was 1 against 6. He was always outnumbered. And it came to a point where most of the times he wouldn't even be there. They just disregarded him as a leader. He would find out afterwards. And they just said, no, we don't even see you as a leader anymore. And he almost lost he became poor and power, his poverty and weakness because of supporting his nephew, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But he never wavered. No matter what you do to me, I will never leave the side of my nephew. And he continued. But without him and without many of the other leaders, this plan was put into place, and they started to action that plan, where all of the police and all of the kind of the troops of Quraysh were sent by Abu Jahl to go into the homes and just raid the homes of all of the Muslims and all of the Banu Hashim and all of those, the entire Banu Hashim, meaning even the non-Muslims, all of them were forced and taken, including Abu Talib, who's so old and frail, Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, Hamza, radiallahu anhu, he's Muslim, understandable. But even those Banu Hashim, even the non-Muslim, those who weren't Muslim, every last person, and also every other Muslim who was a slave or a weak, who didn't have a tribe to back them up, all of them were taken and kidnapped and by official order taken into this one little valley known as the Valley of Abu Talib, or the Shib of Abu Talib, saying, you are exiled from Makkah. And they were detained and contained into this one concentrated camp in the droves until so many hundreds and hundreds were forced into this one open land, forced to eat, sleep, and live there. And everyone would do whatever they could to take whatever little provisions that they could and go there. And it was at this moment that the difficulty comes, when the Prophet ﷺ has to see this turmoil. He has to come out of his home and see what's going on, and see that all of his followers and all of his family members are being detained and are being exiled and taken to the Shib of Abu Talib and detained there. And he ﷺ can't do anything. He looks to Sayyidina Khadija, as in, Wallahu a'lam exactly how that scene would have been. But he ﷺ has to look towards his family and towards everyone else, as everyone is being detained, everyone is being captured and being taken to the Shib of Abu Talib. And there's nothing they can do, because they have a royal court order, if you will. They have an official order to go and do this. And at this difficult moment, the Prophet ﷺ is absolutely helplessness. And he ﷺ is seeing the effect of them, him and his ummah being persecuted and taken into this and kidnapped and forced into this one concentration camp. And as all of the Sahaba are taken, except for those like Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab and those who are of other factions, just the Banu Hashim and the Banu Muttalib, those two, Muslim and non, and all of the weak slaves, and all of those were taken, kidnapped, and taken immediately into this concentration camp as a way of ethnic cleansing, a way of saying, all of you go and die and rot in these camps until we can bury your corpses, and the Muslims are no more. We're going to wipe you out, and there's nothing you can do. This is an official order. And that has come as such a surprise. And as the Prophet ﷺ sees all of this, no doubt, wherever they go, the Prophet ﷺ is going to go. Because that was the heart of the Prophet ﷺ. There was no way on earth, even if they allowed him, that he ﷺ was going to stay in his home while these people were concentrated. So as Abu Talib, as his uncle, as he has to see the painful side that his elderly uncle and his other uncles and his family members all being taken, forced into this valley, he ﷺ looks towards Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha, and he begins to prepare himself that if they're not going, he's also going. Even if they allow him to stay, no matter what happens, he's going to go and he's going to stay with his ummah, and he's going to stay with his family. He's going to stay with those who supported him. Even though his family members are not Muslim, if they're taking his pain, then he's going to take it with them. And he's going to be the hero, the champion, the one who will sacrifice everything to help those people. And he quickly prepares whatever he can. He grabs everything and he leaves his home and everything behind. And he gets ready to go towards this land of Abu Talib, the Shib of Abu Talib, where they will be boycotted for indefinitely until all of them die. In other words, he's saying, forget everything. I'm ready to go and die with you because you supported me and you are my ummah and you are my family. Even if they haven't told me yet, I'm going to go. And he also gets ready. He stands up and gets ready to go. And this is a climactic moment now, because right now the Prophet ﷺ has a decision to make. He has his on one hand, his family is going to it's going to be in a very short time. Within no time, they're going to no doubt come and they're going to also take the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And no doubt they're gonna force him to also go. No doubt everyone else is being taken. But on one side, he has sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and wallahu alam exactly how difficult this moment must have been for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how much of a shock it must have been that in one split second everything's going so fast. All of his family members are being escorted. Time is of the essence. Time is running out. On one side, he's seeing all of his family members being escorted to and being kidnapped and detained in that camp. On the other hand, he has his little innocent daughter, Hazrat Fatima radiallahu anha. He has his young Zayd ibn Haritha. He has young Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib, who is growing up into his teenage years. And like I said, Fatima is is still a young girl. And all of these members, besides Zayd ibn Haritha, Ali ibn Abi Talib, also Banu Hashim, and Banu Muttalib, part of that family. Fatima, his daughter, also. Kulthum, his teenage daughter that has been divorced by the sons of Abu Lahab, also part of his family. All of these people are also going to be kidnapped and taken to this same camp. And now he has to be prepared to take his daughter Fatima, thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to take Fatima? How am I going to take Kulthum? How am I going to take Ali? How are we going to go there? And, he doesn't care about himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What about his innocent children? But as he has, on one hand, he has looked to his children. On the other hand, he has looked towards all his family members and the elders. Look at the mercy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has to look towards the elders that are being taken and forced and dragged to this concentration camp. But on the other hand, he has to bear the pain of, how will I take my Fatima, my Kulthum, my Ali, how will I take them into this camp? But at that moment, suddenly, you know what he sees? Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha is one who the Prophet has to see how many people he can save and how many people he can keep outside of this camp. Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Umar ibn Khattab, and many of these others, alhamdulillah, were saved because they weren't part of this family. The Quraysh couldn't get away with getting them involved. So they were saved. And alhamdulillah, Sayyidah Khadija bint Khuwaylid radiallahu anha, she wasn't part of Banu Hashim and Banu Muttalib as per sense. So she was, because of her fraction and tribe and her family, she was also exempt from this, alhamdulillah, and she didn't have to bear witness to this. They couldn't capture her. And that was a great ease to the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That okay, along with my, I have to worry about my elders and my family, but my daughters, but alhamdulillah, my wife, my beautiful wife, my beloved wife, my Khadija, my rock, my support, alhamdulillah, she's safe. I don't have to worry about her safety. But at this moment, when he's getting ready to get to, in this climactic moment, does he save his children? Does he save his elders? What does he do? Does he go in there and go and help them? How does he prepare his children to go into this boycott? At this moment, tears come to your eyes. Because as the Prophet has to take his children on his own, he has to take Fatima, he has to take Kulthum, he has to take Ali, and he has to walk and quickly go to this camp and ascertain the safety of his uncles and his family members and the elders and the weak and the children. All, not just his children, but all of the children of Banu Hashim and Banu Muttalib, and all of the elders of Banu Hashim and Banu Muttalib. All of them are being forced because of him. So even if they're not Muslim, they are being forced because of him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he felt responsible for protecting all of them. And these are his family members, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And at this painful moment, as he's grabbing his children, as he leaves, who comes next to him? Sayyidah Khadija comes and stands right next to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with her eyes welled up in tears, saying, "There's no way I'm leaving you. There's no way I'm staying at home whilst you go into that boycott. If they take you, I'm going with you. Wherever you go, I go." And you can see that that's why the Prophet loves Sayyidah Khadija so much. That wallahu alam, exactly how beautiful and painful that moment and how emotional that moment must have been. But when the Prophet is leaving to go to the boycott, she has no reason to go. She has no reason in the world to go. But she has one reason that's more than her whole world for her. My beloved is going there. The Prophet is going there. My beloved is going there, so I'm going there. Wherever he is, I is. Wherever Muhammad is Khadija is. Wherever Amin al-Sadiq will be, Tahira will be. And our hearts will always be connected and we will always be together. Whatever you go through, I go through. Whatever path you walk, I walk. And even though she was exempt, she said, I will come with you. And she took no answer. No, I'm not hearing nothing. She made sure that she walked into that concentration camp, leaving all of her wealth behind, leaving all of her riches behind. And she entered into that camp with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with little Fatima radiallahu anha, Ali radiallahu anha, Kulthum, and Khadija radiallahu anha, with the eyes of solace looking into the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she saw that moment when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam enters into this camp with all of the other people, never to return, never to be let out. It wasn't like he was visiting. They all entered into this camp, being forced into this concentration camp, saying, now you're here till you die. All of you die and rot in here. There is no way out for you. And it was declared the moment all of these people are entered and the doors are closed upon them, or the guards are surrounding them, saying, "You are, in other words, encroach into this camp, never to exit, never, no one will enter, no one will exit. It is you and all of you alone to each other. Go and die and rot in this place." And the Prophet ﷺ has to look beyond all of the elders, beyond the children, beyond all of these people, and say that Khadija radiallahu anha sees the pain on the Prophet ﷺ's heart and face as they declare that no food will be given to you, no water will be given to you, no one will talk to you, no one will come and look at you, no one will be allowed to come near you, no one will be able to marry you, no one will be able to do business with you, no one will be able to do anything with you, and no person will even sell you a scrap of bread, no person will even sell you a glass of water. You'll basically be in here starving and dying. That is the state that these people, these innocent Muslims, were sudden, in all of a sudden, in a sudden shock, in one split second, life fell upside down, and they're all in this camp, saying, "We're never going to be let out. We're in prison for life until we die, in a life sentence, in a death sentence, in this boycott." And they're looking towards each other, saying, "No food, no water. No one is allowed to marry to us. No one, even those people who have been engaged, their marriages would have been broken off." And on top of this, Abu Lahab, the arrogant and evil, wretched Abu Lahab, stands up and says, "You know what? Forget Makkah. We've gone so far out that Abu Lahab, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, who loved him for 43 years, says to the Prophet ﷺ that even those people who come outside of Makkah, they've been told not to do business with you. So if you think that when you see someone coming from outside of Makkah, you can scream and shout and help for them, and they'll come and give you something, even they won't. And I've told them that if you whatever they would have bought of you, I'll pay. I'll part with my wealth. I'll pay as though all of those, whatever they would have bought, I'll pay just so that you don't give them food. I'll pay just so that you can make them starve. So you can make my nephew and my own family starve. Astaghfirullah. Imagine hearing these words from your own uncle, from your own family, as they say this to you whilst you're engrossed in this concentration camp. And Sayyidah Khadija saw this sight, and she couldn't bear to see the pain of the Prophet ﷺ. And she knew that pain wasn't for himself, but it was for his people, and for all of the elderly, the weak, the children that he ﷺ was worried for. And at that moment, Sayyidah Khadija did one final thing as she entered into this concentration camp with her beloved husband ﷺ. She went and sent a message quickly to her cousin Hakim ibn Hizam, to her nephew, and she made sure that she spent every last penny of her wealth. Whatever she had, she said, "Look, spend all of it. I don't care. We're going to be in that camp." In other words, whatever we might not be able to do whatever we can. But she made sure that whatever wealth she had, the message was sent that take all of her wealth and buy as much provisions, as much food, as much medical supplies, whatever you can, and take all of it and quickly, secretly get it into this barricade before the doors are closed, before we are completely barricaded. Secretly get it all, and she used all of her business connections through her nephew to do whatever she can to spend every last penny of her wealth to go and bring as much supplies as she could. Hazrat Abu Bakr who spent every last penny of his and became, they all became bankrupt. All of those people of Makkah that Allah had given any wealth to, they would do whatever they could to bring whatever food they could and smuggle it into this barricade for the Muslims. And Umar ibn Khattab and many others who were strong, they would risk their lives saying, "I don't care how many gods I have to fight, but I will go and take whatever I can to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to all of these people who have been barricaded." And before the gates are closed, if you will, before they are completely barricaded, as a Khadija comes to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam with a beautiful smile on her face and says, "Look, don't worry about them. In other words, I've got food and supplies. I've got all of them." And the Prophet ﷺ would go with Sayyidah Khadija and you'd see Sayyidah Khadija and they would go and distribute as much food and as much wealth and supplies as they could, saying, "Don't worry." This was a moment for salvation for all of them. But the Prophet ﷺ, in the midst of this crisis, was so selfless and so concerned about everyone else that him and his wife and his Sahaba were on this humanitarian mission where they would take food, and with his uncles Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, they would go and feed all of the people. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't care. He said, it doesn't matter if he starved, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Doesn't matter if there's no food left for him. And likewise, Sayyidah Khadija, who, don't forget, both the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sayyidah Khadija are not absolutely in their youth. The Prophet ﷺ is 45, 46 at this moment. Sayyidah Khadija is reaching her 60s now. And yet she's in this age of 60s. She's going out and starving herself. And she's going out and doing all of these things to help as much as people as she can, just so that she can see the smile on the Prophet ﷺ. Just so she could see the Prophet smile and say, look, don't worry, they're okay. They're all okay. That's how much love she had for the Prophet ﷺ. And you have to imagine how painful this is for the Prophet ﷺ, that as much as he could find relief in seeing that everyone is fed and looked after, when he sees his wife tiring herself, working day and night to find happiness for the Prophet ﷺ, what does he see? He sees his beloved wife that for is not only above the age of 60, not only is he the elderly age, he sees his beloved wife that has given her every last drop of every last penny, the wealth that she's worked her whole life for. She's losing all of that without even taking a second look, just for me. And on top of that, this beautiful woman, this beloved wife of mine, what is she doing? She's a princess of Quraysh. She's grown up. She was born into royalty. She was born into luxury. She's lived all her life in happiness, all her life in luxury. And for the last years, on top of being taunted, because people would taunt her and people would scold her just because she was connected to the Prophet ﷺ, she took all of this physical abuse because of me. She took all of this verbal abuse because of me. She stayed by my side. She's climbed mountains for me. She's bled for me. She's cried for me. She has walked in the middle of the night, risked her life to go to Adas and Warak and all these people for me. And now she's left behind a home and everything, with not even a bed to sleep on. This princess of Quraysh is coming and left everything for me. Imagine those moments when the Prophet ﷺ would have to see Sayyidah Khadija sleep on hard floors, on hard stone and hard, harsh floors. This princess of Quraysh, this person who grew up in all his luxury, has left everything and slept on the floor because of how much she loves me, because she'll never leave my side. And she proved it that day that no matter what happens, Khadija is with you till the end. I'm always with you, oh my beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was that match made in heaven. This was the purest of love stories. That she gave up everything and said, no matter what happens, I can bleed, I can sleep on stone, but I would rather sleep on stone and be next to you. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he's seeing day in, day out that this woman, this beloved woman who's in her 60s, is becoming thin, becoming frail, becoming, losing all of her strength. And imagine our grandmothers at the age of 60, walking day in, day out, working hard, cooking, doing whatever she can, using whatever contact she has to get more and more of her food, using all of her life savings on just to make people be fed, not even for her own self. And he's also seeing her illness, the skin, the beauty of Hazrat Khadija being affected by drought, by hunger and famine. And he has to see this sight day in, day out. And on top of this, knowing that this Khadija, these eyes that used to give me so much solace, these eyes are becoming welled up with pain and with tears and with hunger and with weakness. Those arms that used to hold me are becoming thin and the bones can be seen on them. Those beautiful legs that used to walk up mountains for me are now facing so much pain because she's constantly under her feet, walking, constantly giving food to people. Just so she can see me smile. Just so she can see that I will find happiness in these people being looked after. And he sallallahu wants to look at this. And this isn't just 1 day or 2 months or 3 months. Months go by, 4 months go by, 5 months go by, 6 months go by, until 1 full year goes by. And we are now entering from the 6th to the 7th to the 8th year of Nubuwah. The boycott starts in the 7th year of the Prophet's Nubuwah. And when we get into the 8th year of the Prophet's Nubuwah, 1 full year has gone by and the Prophet is seeing that the situation has become so worse that people are absolutely starving. All the food supplies have run out. They haven't had food for a year. They haven't had water for a year. They haven't had anything. People are dying. The Prophet wants to see the corpses of those people that are to be buried there, digging with people's own hands there to bury their loved ones. Children, the cries of children are constant. The cries of mothers and the cries of these innocent children are constant. The pangs of these elders are constant. And he sees day in, day out, his uncle Abu Talib becoming more and more weak and frail, unable to bear this boycott. Remember, he's in his 80s now. And he looks to his beloved wife, Sayyidah Khadija, who's in so much pain, he's suffering so much. But when she looks at the Prophet, she just smiles and says, don't worry, I'm okay. She's just staying strong for the Prophet. And the Prophet is staying strong and smiling for all his people. But his heart is bleeding out of pain when he sees the misery and the state and the pain that is being inflicted by his own people, by his own loved ones. And he has to look at this state, say, how will we come out of this? And will we truly, looking at this state, even the Sahaba to look at this state and say, will we truly just die like this? He sallallahu wants to bear with, will my Khadija just die sleeping on stone like this? Will my uncle Abu Talib just die like this, in hunger and starvation? Will my princess of Quraysh, my beloved Khadija die like, passed away, sleeping on stone, like skin and bone? Will my Fatima continue crying like this? Will my innocent Fatima pass away like a child like this? Will all of these innocent children pass away crying out of hunger and starvation? Is this what will happen to us? And the Prophet just wants to bear these tears and lift his hands to his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala and bear this pain. Not just for 1 year, but continuously. And I am conscious of time. I do apologize, I've gone over. But it is from this moment, from this painful moment where the Prophet and the Sahaba and our beloved Sayyidah Khadija, who was sleeping on stone for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, frail and weak, and Abu Talib was becoming frail and weak, wasting themselves away for the benefit of people. True humanitarians out of the love of they had for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who hasn't eaten, who hasn't drunk, who hasn't had anything in years, over a year, who has ultimate starvation. But all he can think about is the people. This moment and this moment, painful moment of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we made dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba and our mother Sayyidah Khadija radhiyallahu anha, and all those beautiful people for every pain that they went through and for every struggle that they went through for us and for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah will reward them immensely like He has rewarded no one else. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ya Allah, please grant this beautiful gift to our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to our beloved mother Sayyidah Khadija radhiyallahu anha, and to all of those beautiful people that believed in you and that struggled for you. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam ajma'in. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.